Kristen, and you're listening to Podcast and Amplify, a podcast for women entrepreneurs who want to amplify their voice and brand through podcasting and grow a wildly successful business. I'm the executive producer and host of 2 shows and an entrepreneur, and I love helping women grow their visibility, mindset, and business to the next level. Each week, I share tips on how to launch and leverage your podcast, and I'm bringing on the very best business leaders to give you advice on how to build your business empire. Let's amplify your voice and business. So today I'm talking with Denise Vernieri. She is a former teacher turned multi-six-figure business coach, and she helps other online business owners to grow their side hustles into their full-time businesses. And she's known as a tough love coach. So she's all about like the compassion, but she gives you that no BS coaching. And I think that's what really allows her to help her clients grow their businesses quickly. And I was introduced to her by a mutual friend, actually my former coach. And I started listening to her podcast, and I kind of came hooked on them because there is that sort of tough love, no nonsense vibe to her podcast, which I love. And I really think that's what we do need is we just need the direct, it's loving, but the direct like guidance. And so I was so excited when Denise agreed to be on the show because I feel like she can give us that perspective of like, this is what you need to do when you are working in your full-time business, but you have the dream of becoming the entrepreneur and growing to the multi-six-figure business. So Denise, thank you so much for being here. Did I miss anything?
No, you got it. Pretty good. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. I love sharing my story and my journey. I think I have a pretty unique one. So I love sharing it, especially if it's going to, inspire somebody else who maybe is where I was a few years ago. So I really just love the opportunity to be here and share my story. And of course, some tips for people who might be where I was a few years ago and are looking to be full-time in their business. So yeah, I think you got everything. The one thing I would probably add too, because I know you mentioned the teacher, but I'm also a mom of 3. And I think that's really important to my story because sometimes I feel like people will dismiss and be like, oh, well, they don't have kids or they don't have a full-time job. And so I have both. I grew my business while working full-time and being a mom of 3. So I think that tough love kind of comes from that. Like there's no excuse that any of my clients could give me that I'm ever really going to believe because I've been there.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that into the conversation because it is super important. I do hear that a lot. I have kids and I can't. And you are proof that, you have the job, you had 3 kids. That's not a small amount of kids. And you were able to do it. And I am in awe of that for sure. I don't have kids. So I'm in awe of any mother who just is out there killing it because that's a lot of jobs and a lot of things to juggle. But like you said, it's possible. And it's great that you can be that example, right, to other people aspiring to get there. So I know you started out teaching, and how long were you doing that before you started the side hustle?
Okay. So I resigned from the classroom after 17 years. And it was about year 7 that I became a yoga teacher. So I've been teaching yoga for like 10 years and I had a wellness business. And that was kind of the thing that I was doing on the side. I had always wanted to have my own business. And I loved the yoga community, the wellness community, the coaching community, anything in the personal growth space. And I did a lot of stuff in my early days. I just never realized that it was a business. I just was like, yeah, I'll run this workshop. And I would have people come up to me after class and say, oh my gosh, I love your sequencing for your flows. Could you run a workshop on teaching yoga teachers how to sequence better? And, can you do an intention setting workshop? And a lot of my ideas really came from people requesting them of me. So I just did it. I never really had like the thought that this was a business. It wasn't until a few years into doing that I had this like come to moment, this epiphany where I just was not feeling really satisfied in my full-time career anymore. And I really just loved my business. And I started thinking of it that way as a business. And I decided to do this little experiment. What if I treated the thing that I really loved, that I was really passionate about, as my full-time thing? Like that was the priority. And then the career was my side job. And it was just that mindset shift that really opened up so much more opportunity for me, because I just started thinking differently about so many things. Like I started thinking differently about making investments. I started thinking differently about my time. I started thinking differently about the offers that I was putting out there. And I really started thinking differently about myself. That was probably the biggest shift I made. Was I went from, just this like laissez-faire kind of person doing all these like, slap together workshops just because I felt like it, to having a little bit more intention behind the things that I was doing. And I really started to see myself as a CEO. And I think it was probably a year of me really doing that inner work where I started to believe that I could build my business to a place where eventually it would replace my salary. So as I mentioned, I have 3 kids, I'm married, we have responsibilities, and my salary was very much part of our, the income to continue our lifestyle. So it wasn't like I could just quit my job and go all in on my business. Although I really wanted to do that, that just wasn't, that wasn't the way that we planned for it. So I started, making a plan, and I believe, honestly, for the first time in like a very long time, that I could grow this business to a place to replace my salary. And that's what happened. So there were a lot of mindset shifts that happened just from that, those first few years of like, it's just a side business. It's just a thing I do for fun. And it was an evolution. So when people hear like, oh, you started your side business 10 years ago. Yeah, I did. I didn't call it that. I didn't even think of it as a side business at the time. It wasn't until a few years later that I realized, hey, this is a business. And then it was like, oh, not only is it a business, it's a business that I actually really want to do full time. And that's where I am today.
Yeah, I can so relate to your story. I started my travel blog in 2019, and really I could say that was the start of this entrepreneurial journey, but I didn't really know it. It's like you take these steps towards, your things that feel right. And then you kind of can look back and think, oh yeah, that was really the beginning. But you mentioned that mindset shift that was so important around thinking about your career as your side hustle and your side hustle as your career. And I love that, because the way you see something, right, is so crucial to your success, because I'm sure you thought, when I make this investment, say in this tool or this software or this coaching, that had a lot more meaning, and maybe you were more motivated to do it just by that, having that shift and just moving your energy. That's really huge. Do you think that there's a way that people can get there, or is it something that just has to naturally happen along your journey?
I think that by me just sharing this story, and like I share this with my clients all of the time, that it's this mindset shift that you have to do. Because now, because of the work that I've been doing for a few years, I had a lot of people coming to me like, how in the world are you growing your business? Like, there's this belief in the yoga spiritual community that you can't make money. Like, it's like, nobody's going to pay for blah, blah, blah. And I basically just defied that in my own community. And so I had a lot of people coming to me like, can you help me? I want to grow a business. I see that you're doing it. What did you do? And I kind of got the idea of like, oh, I could totally help these people like grow businesses. Like I know how to coach. I'm a coach already. It's just applying that to business. And what I learned by working with tons and tons and tons of people who have side businesses and are working like full time, or they might even have a couple of jobs and they also have their own business, is that is crucial to your success, is to not think of the business as the side thing. Because I see it time and again, a lot of people who are working in a career, they're putting that first. They're making decisions that are like at the sacrifice of their own business. Now, I'm not saying, don't be a good employee, of course, like do your job, do whatever it is you do in your career, do it well. But at the end of the day, when your day ends at 5 o'clock or whatever time it is, that's the time you shut that off and you turn on your business. And what I see a lot happening in the beginning is like, oh, I'll get to that later. I'm too tired. I'll do it tomorrow. And then they never get to it. So that mindset shift is so, so crucial, because it's just going to make you show up very differently. Like, I stopped taking work home. That's just what happened. I stopped preparing for my day. Like in the morning when I was drinking coffee, I stopped doing that. I only worked in my job when I was at my job. And then when I came home, that's when I was filling in the time to work in my business. I woke up early and drank coffee. I wrote a post. When I was in the car, I did personal growth stuff, like listening to a coaching call that I had with my coach. On my lunch break, I was, tweaking a sales page or coming up with some ideas to teach my clients. And I fit my business in all the little pockets of time that I had. And it's really because I decided that this was the main thing. And I also want to add one more thing to this too, is that a lot of people who have a business, a lot of my clients in particular, they have a business and then they kind of hate their career. They hate the thing they're doing, the 9 to 5. And another mindset shift that I made was I became very thankful to my full-time job because of the salary that I got and the skills that I learned. I was able to leverage in my business. And the salary that I was making afforded me the luxury to grow my business without pressure. So a lot of people want to just jump ship and go all in on their business. But if you need to make an income to support your lifestyle, you don't want to put that pressure on like a brand new business. So the other mindset shift that happened there was my business is the most important thing. This is the priority. I am a CEO. My full-time job is my side business. But I'm also super thankful to it because it's affording me the time and the money to be able to grow my business with ease and not put like a ton of pressure on myself or on my business to, perform for me.
Yeah, I think that is a really great thing to point out, because I think a lot of people are just frustrated with their career and they're just like, I want to do this thing. I know I want to do it. But if it's helping to fund the business, I mean, that's a really important thing. And I had to do that too. It was like, remember the gratitude of like, okay, this is helping me to get where I want to go. And it's so important at that beginning stage of your business. We'll get back to the show in just a moment, but I wanted to take just a few seconds to invite you to the free workshop that I created. It's called The 3 Secrets to Starting Your Successful Podcast. Now, it's all about helping you to start your dream podcast so that you can share your voice and expand your business. If you want to join, just go to exploreinu.com. It's totally free. All right, friend, back to the show. So those are really great mindset shifts and, having the gratitude. So I want to talk a little bit about this interesting idea of time, because our time is so valuable, obviously, but especially when you're trying to do the side hustle and the career at the same time. And I'm sure you get this a lot around like, I don't have time. How do I best utilize my time, to get to your goal of creating your business. So what are your thoughts around like how we, first of all, even just think of time in the standard sense? And is it serving us, or is there a way we can think outside of what we're kind of all conditioned to think about time?
Yeah. So I have some interesting ways of thinking about time. And I've done a lot of like questioning for myself because I had to. I am not one of those business coaches that says you need to be full-time in your business and you need to be doing 40, 50, 60 hours and don't expect to make profit your first year and all that stuff. Like, I mean, I think that's very, quote unquote, traditional business wisdom that, I know I heard growing up is that, oh, having a business, it's all consuming and you're not going to have a life and you got to put 80 hours in. And I do not subscribe to the hustle culture at all. I think that our lifestyle is so important and feeling nourished in your business is also really important. And I don't, I had this like epiphany one day. I'm like, why do we work 40 hours? Like, where did that come from? I really sat down and was like, why is 40 hours full time? Why isn't 20 hours full time? Because most people I know that are working 40 hours a week are sometimes working 50 hours a week. They have their phone attached to their hip and they, accept that this is just the way we do it. And I was just really curious one day, like, where did this really come from? And why is 40 hours full time and not 20? And what can get accomplished in 20 hours versus 40 hours? And so I just have a lot of different ways that I started questioning time and what's possible. And one thing I know for sure is in entrepreneurship, you're not trading time for dollars. In an employee world, you are, right? You have to work 40 hours. This is your salary. Or if you might be an hourly wage employee, like you go to work, you work this time, that's why you get that money. And there's like a ceiling cap, right? But in entrepreneurship, that doesn't translate at all, because how much time would you actually have to work to make $1 million, right? If it was time equals money, and it doesn't. So that was a switch that I remember like making very early on in my business and then realizing, oh, then that means I can really grow my business and leverage the time that I have. And it doesn't have to be 40 hours. So what I teach my clients is like how much time they have is the exact right amount of time for them to grow their business. That they can find the time in the time that they have, that they don't have to sacrifice their well-being. They don't have to sacrifice their relationships in order to grow a business. It's really them changing the way that they think about time and realizing that they do have enough. Even if it's 5 hours a day or 5 hours a week, rather, that's enough time. It's enough time for you because that's the time you have. So it's actually believing that and then setting aside what are the essential things to work on. So this is a great tip for your audience is what are the essential things that need to be done in your business every single week, and let that be your minimum baseline. So what I teach is like, what are your essentials? And then what is the minimum baseline? So let's just say, for example, I'll give a marketing example. I think this is really easy. Your goal might be that you're going to post on whatever platform you choose to post on 5 days a week. That might be your goal. That's like what feels really good to you. And it's like your aspiration to do every week, but your minimum baseline might be 3. So if all else fails, you're still going to post no matter what 3 times a week. And so you have to like know that if you don't do it on Tuesday, then you're just going to find another day to put it in. And I teach my clients how to do flexible calendaring so that, they have gray area where, let's say, their boss asks them to stay late or something happens at work and they have to stay there, then they just can move whatever they've planned on doing that day to another time that they have some gray space. So, and that gray space, if it doesn't get filled up, then, you get to go read a book, you get to go take a walk. You don't need 40 hours a week, especially when you pare down your business to the essentials. And I think a lot of people think that you need to be doing a whole lot, but you really don't. An online business, it doesn't require as much time as you really think it does. It takes a long time when you're not being intentional with it. When you sit down and you're like, oh, I don't really know what to work on. What should I work on? Oh, I don't really know what I'm going to write about today. And then you sit there for a few hours, scrolling on social, like that's a time killer. So it's about knowing exactly how much time you want to spend per week. It's paring down your business, and it's going to be different for everybody, but your business to the essentials. And then when you sit down to work, you have an intention for that time. And then leaving some gray space so that if you needed to move something because, maybe your kid has a game and you want to really go to the game, then you move that item to that gray space and you fill it up later. And I think that's what actually helps a lot of my clients keep themselves from that burnout. That I know it's so easy to go into burnout if you're full-time in your business. Never mind if you're working in a 9 to 5 and then building your business on the side. It's so easy to dip into burnout, but that's also the fastest way for you to quit on your business. And it's also going to slow your growth. So to me, that's always of the utmost importance, is to make sure that my clients have, I know balance is a cliche word, but really that is what it is. It's to make sure that they still have balance and they're enjoying their life in the process.
Yeah. And I think to create a process that is sustainable, right? Because the working 40, 50, 60 hours is not sustainable. It leads to the burnout. And, you really don't want to get in a situation where your career life looks, or your business life looks very much like your career life, right? That's not the point. The point is to create the life that you want. A lot of us entrepreneurs value freedom, right? Freedom to do and what you want in your day and, where you want and all those things. So those are really great tips. And I think for myself, and I'm sure listeners too, breaking out of that pressure of, oh, I have to work so hard for 40 hours. That's huge. And I know I'm still sort of in that process, but just shifting that idea around time, where you quote unquote should be spending it, how you should be spending it. Those are really big things, but I love the tips that you gave because I think they're going to really help people think differently about how to spend your time, where to spend it, and then how to be intentional when you're, actually sitting down to work on your business. And you're so right. The time you have is the right amount of time. That's another big, I think, idea shift that is really important. But you have shared so many big aha moments and mindset shifts and actual great tangible tips with us today. And so I just want to thank you for your time and for sharing your coaching wisdom. And is there anything else that I may have missed?
No, I think that, entrepreneurship is, if it's tugging at your heart, this is what I will say. If you're sitting in your cubicle, you're sitting at your desk and you're you have this thing on the side that you're passionate about, or you've even dreamed about it, it is so possible. Seriously. I am, a 17-year teacher who's a mom of 3, has left the classroom, built her business to multiple 6 figures. If I could do it, so can you. And one thing that I will tell you for sure, because I was that person that put the dream on hold till, oh, I'll do it later. I'll do it when I retire. That gnawing, that little tug at your heart, it doesn't go away. So if you're oh, I'll just wait till later, I'll just forget about it. Don't, it's not going to go away. And entrepreneurship has been I think the greatest gift, not just for me, but also for my family. And so if you are sitting in your cubicle and you've been really wanting to go full-time in your business, now is the best time to do it. Right now, because you have the exact amount of time that you need. You have everything you need right now. And I would love to leave your audience with that. I wish that somebody had told me these things 10 years ago. I would have left my job sooner.
Yes, I can second that. I feel like I only wish I started sooner. So, but I love those words of encouragement. And I also want to ask you, how can people work with you, or where can they hear more about you?
Yeah, awesome. So I'm on Instagram at Denise Vernieri. My website is denisevernieri.com. And there are two ways to currently work with me. So I'm still taking one-on-one clients. I have a 6-month container. That's usually for people who are looking to scale. So they've already made, 75 to 100,000 in their business, and they want to, set up systems and processes and, add offers to scale beyond that. And then I also have a mastermind coming up, and this is like perfect for like newbie entrepreneurs or those people who are looking to transition into full-time entrepreneurship. It's 6-Figure Foundations Mastermind. We kick off in October, and I cannot wait. Like literally, this is the offer that I put everything into this container that I wish I had, like 100%, like instead of piecemealing it from all these different places, put everything into this offer. It's going to be so amazing. I already have 4 incredible women signed up, and I haven't even really publicly put the applications out. So it's just going to be such a great space. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's great. So we'll include the links to that in the show notes, and so people can go check that out. But Denise, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your brilliance.
Oh, thank you so much, Kristen. I appreciate it.
If you loved today's episode, please subscribe so you don't miss a show. And rating and reviewing this podcast is the best way to help support us. Always remember, your voice and what you have to offer is needed in the world. Until next week, take care.